there, it's Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm going to be pretty quickly making a batch of inky cards. This is a very simple way to kind of batch make cards, and these are going to go together in a little set as a gift. So I'm going to start off with some masking paper. I do find it worthwhile to invest in some good masking paper, because when I put the effort into masking something, and particularly if I have to do fussy cutting or anything for it, and then I do the job that I want to do with the ink, and then I lift it up for a big reveal and it's smudged or it's leaked underneath, that is the most disappointing feeling ever. So for me, getting a really good quality masking paper is important, and this Gina one is one that I have found to be really good quality, and I'm able to reuse the masks for when I'm like masking off flowers and I've done fussy cutting and things. I'll just keep them on the back of my stamp sets for another time. For today's project, I do want to show you a couple of things. I am going to keep the design the same, so I have a thicker strip that has masked off the right hand side, and then a couple of thin strips, and this will all become really clear once I kind of get inking and things like that. But obviously you can mask off any design that you wish. I'm going to keep the design the same on all three because, as I said, they're going to be a set. And I also want to show you that you don't have to just have flowers or butterflies today. So I am going to keep those things pretty much out of it, and I can show you that this would be a really versatile gift set. And it is a really kind of simple design, and that's what I like about it. So we are going to get to inking here. The first one I'm going to use Traffic Cone and Guppy. Now I'm choosing to use the Simon Hurley ink pads today. This is like a red and an orange that I'm going to blend. In no particular fashion, you'll see that I kind of just squiggle my way around and make sure I go back and forth. I am choosing to use finger daubers today, but you could use makeup sponges, you could use cotton balls, work really well for ink blending. I have a few videos on that. Or you could just use some domed foam blenders or your mini ink blenders. Anything is going to work pretty well here. Even makeup brushes, whatever you prefer to blend with is going to work well. As well as that, any inks that you have that you prefer to blend with are going to work really well here too. Or you could use things like watercolors or anything, any medium that you are comfortable with and we can stamp over top of is going to work perfectly. So there is no reason why you have to stick to using inks. This is just what I felt like using today, and I enjoy blending them. Now, I am not going to show you the masking process 3 times over, so I did this to 3 individual sheets, the exact same as the first one that I showed you, and that's how I laid them down. I did lay them down onto a little piece of grid paper, which you can just see poking out the top and the bottom here, and that just made sure that I lined up my strips of masking paper right, but you don't have to do that either, especially if you're going for an on-purpose wonky look. This is a really kind of classic design in card making. This is not brand new or anything like that. It's just a really fun design and a really fun technique to get a nice, relatively quick for card making set of cards. So I am all finished with these 2 colors. I went back and forth until I was happy with the blend between them. I know that it looks like a little bit of a hot mess at the moment, but I promise that it will all come together nicely. I am going to move on to the next one, and for this I'm using Later Gator, Tropical Tango, and Remember Me. For these 3, I decided to change it up just to show you that you can use any kind of pattern you wanted, and I'm just simply going to go from the bottom to the top. So you don't have to kind of do the squiggly pattern that I showed in the first one. This video is really just showing you that there are different options, and as I said, you can use whatever medium works well for you, and that's where the masking paper factor really comes into play, because I know that even if I were to use watercolors or really wet inks on these, that I would still get a really good hold on my masking and it would be nice and crisp when I brought it up. So that's what's important to me when I am working on a project, because it is so disappointing when you put in the time and the effort and the materials to create something and then you lift it up and it is not as you expected. So that just eliminates one factor for me, and for me that's important. So I'm going to move on to the next one here. As I said, these are all pretty much going to be the same, but I'm just quickly moving through the inking process, and then we will kind of get to how we finish these all off. I'm going to use Crown Me and Triple Berry. This is just a purple color and then a kind of pinky purpley color. I chose colors that are going to blend nicely together, that are similar, so that I don't have any trouble blending in things. For example, if I was trying to put like a purple and a green next to each other, that would be tricky, or purple and orange, that would be really tricky too. Not impossible, but definitely trickier. And so I like to make life easier by putting colors next to each other that I know are going to blend really nicely. And I know at the moment you can see that there's definitely some harsh lines, but that's where you need to come back and go back to the other finger dauber, and then go back to the purple, and then back to the pinky one. So you just kind of move between the two, and you should end up with a really nice blend, but patience is the key, and going back and forward is the key. Remember that I've sped this bit only up a tiny bit. It's only 1.2, so it's barely any faster than what it is in real life, but you just have to keep working at it and kind of go back and forward, back and forward. Now I'm going to use my anti-static powder bag. This is really important because we've just done a whole lot of inking and I'm about to do the heat embossing. So I do not want to get halfway through a project and then find that it's all sticking. And because I would be frustrated if that happened, this is the time when I usually do a quick little test to double check that. So I'm going to take the white embossing powder, which is what I'm going to use today, and just sprinkle some over, and I can see that none has stuck there, so I know that I am ready for stamping. Because again, I think that is one of the frustrating things in card making, is that when you come to do some embossing and you finally add your embossing powder and it has stuck absolutely everywhere. Now I'm going to start off here. This is the Bubble Bloom by Woodware, and this is, well, I don't think I would count it as a flower. I mean, it's kind of a whimsical bloom, isn't it? A whimsical flower, maybe. I don't know. But to me, this is just kind of more of a fun design. I am going to ink this up in some Versamark ink. And then I am going to, just because I can't see it very well, I'm going to add the white embossing powder so that I know where to stamp next. I do not want these to overlap at all. But I'm just going to bring them in kind of all different angles and make sure that I fill up enough of that little channel, because I want it to be kind of nice and full. I don't want it to be too empty. So I'm going to add the powder again, and then I just see a wee bit of a spot up there where I think I should add a couple more of those little bubbles. So I'll just ink up a little bit and then turn it around and do it again. But as I said, I definitely think that you could use pretty much any stamps that you have in your stash. They would work really well for this project. And that's what makes it so versatile. You probably have some inks at home that you're able to use, so I think that this is a really good one just for making a quick batch set of cards. I'm going to move on to the second one here. This one is the Mandala one. This is from Stampendous, and it is the Mandala flower. And again, you can just kind of put this wherever you want. I'm going to stamp this so I can see a few of these. I should probably pop this on a block, but I was being a little bit lazy, so I'm just using my hand, and it ended up working out pretty fine anyway. So I'm making sure that I can kind of get a couple of these in. I didn't want to just stamp one right in the middle. I prefer to kind of have lots of little bits and pieces showing. And this one kind of showed up enough that I didn't need to add the white powder bit by bit, so I could see everywhere that I was stamping. Maybe it was because the inks were a little bit darker. So I've added the powder on. I always put it back into my jar because that would be me who would spill it otherwise. Then I use my embossing tool, my heat gun, and I'm going to melt all of that powder, and then I will move on to our last design. Now this one is kind of floral, I guess, but this is one that I have used lots and lots of times in videos. So this is the Queen Anne's lace stamp, but it is a really gorgeous stamp and really versatile. So again, you don't just have to stamp it kind of straight in the middle, and you can kind of turn it around and get all different angles and make it look like you're using all the different parts of the stamp, so that you just haven't stamped the same thing over and over again. This is one of the ones, again, on the oranges and the reds, that I needed to add the powder just to make sure that I wasn't going to overlap them. And then do exactly the same process, making sure that I heat set these and all of that embossing powder is nice and melted and it becomes shiny. Now, all of the products that are used in today's video that I can find that are still available will be linked down in the description box below. However, if I haven't linked them down there, then they're probably not available anymore. But I feel like this is one of those ones that you pretty much would have most things ready to go in your stash. So I hope that you are inspired by this and feel like you can really achieve this one. I had a lot of fun kind of creating this video and this little batch of cards because it felt like there was no pressure. I was just really enjoying the card making. Now these are the sets here. I know that you guys haven't seen these for a while. This is from the LDRS and this is the sentiment stacker sets. So these are the ones where you stamp out these sentiments, and I am just choosing to stamp this in some VersaFine Onyx black ink onto a piece of paper. And then the fantastic thing about this though is that they have added a whole lot more sets to this stamp collection. So I think there's like 6 or 8 maybe stamp sets, and they all have the exact same coordinating die. So you buy one die and it does all of the sets. So I have a few of these stamp sets, and all I do is I go through like this, I stamp out a few pieces of paper, and then here's the die that you just line up with those 4 black dots. I add a little bit of low-tack tape just to make sure that it stays in place as I run it through my die cutting machine, and then I just have a stack of these next to my desk. Now my stack has run out. I have used these a whole lot, and these sold out so fast last time, and it took a little minute to get these back in stock. But as of doing this voiceover, these are all available again, and they have a good stock of them, and there are all of the new options available. So I have chosen to purchase a couple more to go with it, and they have all of these gorgeous sentiments that are ready to go just in a little cup beside my desk, and I find these really handy. So I'm using these again today. You can see that they just pop out of the die and they are good to go. So I'm going to be using these on my card today. I'm going to pick a couple of them out that go well with some sentiments. Some of them go really nicely by themselves, but I am going to choose some that I can add with a stamp. Here is the big reveal, and this is the fun part of pulling back that masking tape. But look how crisp those lines are. That's what I appreciate about this masking tape, and this is, as I said, a really basic design, and it's not necessarily anything new, but I really do appreciate how well this masking tape works, and the design works really well for lots of different occasions. So I'm having fun pulling these off, as you can see. And then, as I just mentioned before, these are super versatile with which occasion you would like to use these for. So I just kept it fairly generic because I was going to be giving these away as a gift set. So I wanted to make sure that all 3 of these were different. So I'm using the Friendly Greetings stamp set, and you can see I already have 3 of those little die cut sentiments that are out. So this middle orange one is going to say, "Yay, you're the best." And then over to the left it says, "Thanks so very much." And then on the right hand one it is going to say, "Sending you a big hug." Now in this stamp set it does have the sentiment that says "Sending hugs." I am just going to cut off the sending, and then I will just mask off the little S there because I don't want it to say "sending you a big hugs." I just want it to say "sending you a big hug." And so if I just mask off the S there, you can see that it's not going to stamp at all. And then I will pop all of these to the right hand side of our ink blending. This one says "Yay," and I'm using the same VersaFine Onyx black ink that I used to stamp the little sentiment strips. And then these are almost going to be complete. I did decide that I would pop up the sentiment strips on a little bit of foam tape just for a tiny bit of dimension. Otherwise, if you pop these flat, they could pretty much be 1 layer cards, but I just thought a little bit was nice. Then I did pop these up on some foam tape to go onto the card bases. So the card front measures 4 by 5 1/4 inches, and the card bases are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and that way it just gives it that nice little frame around the outside. But again, you could either skip this or you could make the frame a little bit wider as well. Both of those would look really good. So as I said, they are my cards for today. I hope you enjoyed this kind of quick ink blending and then creating a little gift set with some really fun little sentiments. If you really enjoyed this video, then please consider subscribing to my channel and give me a little thumbs up, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks, bye!